All right, this is Chat UTD. Just a quick preview of the game against Wolves this evening at Molineux. We face a team that couldn't be in a worse state, really. Wolves have 2 points from, I think, 14 games, which, if they continue on that trajectory, would be, I think, the worst Premier League points total. They're on course for the worst Premier League points total. Um, Amazing, really, when you consider that last season, I know they were in a bit of trouble, and the manager came in around this sort of stage of the season and turned it around, and they beat us twice. I thought they looked a decent team, but they've lost their offensive players. Obviously, Cunha's come to us. There's no pace in the team. They look absolutely shot to pieces. Um, the manager that they've brought in, not that none of this is my problem, I'm just painting the picture. The manager they've brought in looks like an appointment ready for the Championship rather than to get them out of the mess they're in. So I probably believe is at an all-time low. All that said, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they beat us tonight and get their first win of the season. Because that's where we are. And I look at our team and I think, what it's going to do differently? You know, we played on Thursday night, so you'd hope that gives rise to an opportunity to make some changes. But I think he's locked in. I think he's locked in on the majority of the players that he plays week in, week out. I think he's given up on Ugarte. I think he's given up on Mainu. So you're not going to get any variety in the midfield. And if you did now, you bring in two lads in who barely kicked a ball and won't be match fit. So that's a problem in itself. He's gone. He's backed himself into a corner in a cul-de-sac, and he can't really come out now. Amorim, so he's going to keep picking the same players. And the evidence over the last few weeks is that there's like 5 minute, 10 minute periods where we look half decent, but that's about it. So, is anyone back? I don't know. Is Seshko back? I'm not sure. That might give us a slightly different dynamic if he is. Cunha obviously is returning to Wolves. That'll be a big occasion for him. And Mbumo's out of form, but is still probably our most dangerous offensive player. You've got the issues I mentioned in the midfield. De Ligt's holding it all together at the moment. He's the only one who, week in, week out, for me, is playing well. Even when he's not at his best, he's still pretty much our best player most times he plays. Ahmad is a player who can do something individually if picked. Diogo Dalot's had two semi-decent performances in a row. Not good enough, but he's doing all right. So there's enough there to get a result tonight. If we don't, which is speculative, but if we don't, I don't think it will be the tipping point for Amorim to be sacked, because all the noise coming out of the club is that whatever happens tonight, he's staying in situ. But what I would say is I think Amorim needs to leave, if I'm honest with you. Whatever happens tonight, and this is said with no agenda or no toxicity. I don't dislike the fella at all. But even for the owners, there has to be a tipping point where you say, on top of all of these, as I've called them, nadirs that we've had over even this season, but particularly last season, you look at his win percentage, you look at the style of play, his lack of ability to put his print on the team, the system really not working, having all week to work with the players and it's making absolutely no difference. His misuse of players at times, the fact he's got £180 million worth of talent in Cunha and Mbumo and Seshko, and he's got none of them are firing. It's a real shame, because for me, in a different time, in a different place, with a different ownership structure, maybe with this team further along in its journey, if it was ever to get to that point, I think Amorim would be a really good Man United manager. But it's not a different time, place or ownership structure. It is what it is. And he's looking increasingly out of his depth, not because he's not a good manager, but because his skill set doesn't fit with what's required here. And his skill set doesn't fit with what he's got here, above him and below him. And we just have to be real about that. Ineos, just like Amorim's locked in on his players, Ineos are locked in on Amorim, probably because they don't want to admit they've made a mistake, or they don't know where to go next, or maybe it's stubborn pig-headedness, I don't know. But what's that old analogy when you're on a train and you realise you've got on the wrong one? What are your options? Do you stay on it out of bloody mindedness and pretend you wanted to go there anyway, where you're heading to, and you're getting further and further away from the destination you actually wanted to go to, but you don't look like an idiot for getting off? Or do you say, okay, as soon as I can, I'm going to get off this train so I don't compound my mistake, and maybe I have to start the journey again and go backwards to go forwards, but I can get back to my destination a bit quicker than I wanted, than if I stay on it. And that's the conundrum that they face at the moment. And I think they were ballsy in their decision with Dan Ashworth. That's had very little impact for the positive for the club. And with a manager, maybe that feels more personal, maybe that feels more like, of an admission of defeat if they were to change direction. But as I said, there has to be a tipping point. And regardless of what happens tonight, I don't think Amorim is the man to take United forward in this ownership structure. And I will repeat that, because I think in another ownership structure, I think he would do very well. I don't think he'll do it here with this. But who would? I think we need a firefighter. And it shouldn't be based on whether we win the game or not tonight. I said this when United were playing Sunderland, and all the noise was, if we get beat by Sunderland, Amorim could go. And I said then, it's not about whether we beat Sunderland, it's about if the club feels he's the right man to take us forward, then regardless of win, lose or draw against Sunderland, and it's the same again tonight, although losing to Wolves would be a bigger embarrassment. It is the same again though. If you believe he's the right man, okay, stick with it. But if you don't, doesn't matter what happens tonight, you've got to be doing work in the background and have a contingency for who you would bring in. At the risk of sounding too sure of myself, I 100% know that United are going absolutely nowhere under this ownership structure. With the Glazers and Ineos in cahoots with each other, we will finish between 6th and 16th, maybe with the odd exception here or there, and it will, and that's it won't ever change from that. We won't break that ceiling, certainly not sustainably. I 100% in my own mind know that. I've got not even a doubt about it. With Amorim, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about him. But it would only be blind faith that would say, stick with this, because there's not any shoots of recovery. There's not any chinks of light. We've probably got a better points return than we deserve at this point. And you've got all the evidence of last season. But anyway, bringing it back to tonight, it's a dangerous thing to say United should win, because you can say that about so many other games that we've been heading into over this last 2 or 3 years, and it hasn't happened. But the noise around it will get close to deafening if we don't win the game tonight, and even a draw would be hideous against Wolves. I just think it's set up for us to balls this up, and it ends up being a very, very long week until the Bournemouth game next Monday. I'll do a video after the Wolves game. God knows what we'll be talking about. I'll see you then. Glazers out.